us this morning. We're looking at Acts chapter number 21. Acts 21, once again, there's a lot that goes on in this chapter, in the narrative of the missionary journeys. Paul has come back to Jerusalem, and one of the things that I love about this chapter takes place in, we'll come back to it. It takes place in verse number 8, but we'll come back to that in just a second. As Paul comes back to Jerusalem, he comes into Jerusalem, and the brethren are excited to see him. However, there have been lies told about him, lies told about what he had been doing, his work that he had been done, how he had been working and ministering, and these were flat-out lies about things he was saying and claiming about the law. And they tell him he needs to be purified, and he goes into the temple. And notice verse 27, "And when 7 days were almost ended, the Jews which were in Asia, when they saw him in the temple, stirred up all the people and laid hands on him." These Jews have been traveling and following him since Thessalonica, trying to arrest him, trying to kill Paul. And I just think it's amazing their determination to end the work of God. But that's not my thought for today. There's always going to be enemies of the Word of God. There's always going to be evil people who want to put a stop to the work of God. But what stands out to me here today is verse number 8. It says, "And the next day, we that were of Paul's company departed, and came into Caesarea. We entered into a house of Philip the Evangelist." Now, so Philip the Evangelist was somebody we were introduced to earlier in the book of Acts. He was one of the 7 deacons. And what I love is Paul has already had his 3 of his missionary journeys. He's already visited churches. They planned. Years have taken place since Acts, since the beginning of Acts, where Philip has that first revival there in Antioch, and it's called down to meet the Ethiopian eunuch. So now we are introduced to Philip right here one more time, who is still faithful, who is still following God, who is still consistently trying to be a warning and to be a mouthpiece for God. So much so, we find out in his next passage that he's raised his daughters to serve the Lord as well. He's right in the middle of serving God and raising his family to be servants to God and to obey his word. And I love that picture of that Philip. I loved Philip's obedience. One of the things I just really am encouraged by that I've never seen before is that Philip continued to be obedient and submissive and usable to God. You know, that's a character trait that I think we all should have as Christians. We should all have a desire to allow God to use us in our life. We should all have a desire to be submissive to him. So as you go throughout your day, as you go throughout today, seek to be submissive to God. Seek to be like Philip, the evangelist here, who's willing to tell other people what God has done for them. Tell people what God's done for you. Share your faith. Share his working in your life. You may say, well, wait a second, preacher. I'd love to tell somebody how to be saved, but I don't know a lot of verses. There's 2 solutions to that. Number 1, read the Word of God. Number 2, just tell people what you did to come to Jesus Christ. Tell people what you did to be saved. Tell people what you learned. And whenever we start and we go back and we learn the Word of God and we're obedient to do what he's called us to do, God is faithful. He's faithful to be there for us. He's faithful to be there with us. He's faithful to protect us. And on the question of the law, you know, if you can join us for this evening service on Wednesday night, you can tune in right here on YouTube. We're going to be looking in Romans chapter 7 tonight. In Romans chapter 7, through verse number 7 through 13, Paul answers a very, very crucial question. He answers this question, dealing with what happens in Acts chapter 21. The question is the law sin or is the law good? What do we need to do in regards to the law? What is the law to us who are Christians? What does it mean to me now, almost 2,000 years after Paul? We look forward to seeing everybody this evening. You know, we'd love to hear how God spoke to you, how God challenged you, or what stood out from Acts chapter 21. I'm looking forward to tomorrow as we look at Paul's defense against this angry mob, and we will see how that his defense was something that he was able to present of what God was doing in his life. And so we look forward to that time. We look forward to discussing this tomorrow in Acts chapter 21. God bless you. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you this evening.